Former President Donald Trump's apparent victory in the presidential race has sparked efforts underway by world leaders and nations to prepare for his second coming. Despite many international leaders preferring President Biden, Trump claimed in a recent debate that foreign countries don't respect Biden's leadership and don't respect the United States. Low global confidence in Trump explains why US allies are trying to prepare for an America that has turned away from global affairs, either through political decisions or distracted by internal chaos and partisanship. Diplomatic protocol dictates that foreign representations aren't allowed to comment on other countries' elections or internal politics. But senior government officials have, in the past year, specifically made a point to keep up relationships with Trump and national security professionals in his orbit. In April, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago to advocate for ongoing US support for Ukraine. During the same month, Polish President Andrzej Duda had a 2.5-hour meeting with Trump in New York, describing it as a friendly meeting in a very pleasant atmosphere. Additionally, Jens Stoltenberg, the outgoing NATO Secretary General, highlighted the alliance's economic benefits for the US in a presentation to the Heritage Foundation earlier this year. This think tank is seen as a potential base for officials who may join a second Trump administration. On the other hand, American allies that are deeply dependent on the US for political and military backing are deepening relationships between each other and with Europe to guard against Trump's threat to scrap security commitments if countries don't spend enough on defense. There's more into this, and besides that, we are also going to answer the following questions in today's episode. How will China and the BRICS economies react when Trump finally gets to the Oval? What will be the situation of conflicts in the Middle East and Europe? Will it slow down or intensify? And finally, will this be a turning point for the world? If you are keen to know what's happening, then just stay put as we break down everything in this video. With the presidential election in the US just a few months away, financial markets are already speculating on future trends, and some lawmakers are preparing for the possibility of a new administration. This election is being portrayed as a crucial moment that could significantly impact America's influence on the global stage. While Trump's political perspective remains consistent since his departure from office, the context in which he operates has evolved. The world has considerably turned to be more chaotic than when he was president during his first term. Dozens of conflicts are ongoing. Great power rivalry is the norm, and the world order is collapsing. Despite their starkly contrasting views on social, legal, political, and economic issues, Biden and Trump are not fundamentally different in their approach to foreign policy. However, countries worldwide are bracing for the possibility of a second Trump presidency, and governments are responding as expected by developing contingency plans. Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel are likely to experience the greatest impacts, either positive or negative. Allies may face tariffs, transactional politics may become the norm, and conflicts will be addressed with bluntness. Each time the White House changes leadership, US foreign policy undergoes both discontinuities and continuities. While many differences between Biden and Trump may be limited to rhetoric, words have immense power. They can either end conflicts or ignite revolutions. The global situation has deteriorated, with armed conflicts surging to over 50, according to the Peace Research Institute in Oslo, the highest level of hostility since 1946. Conflicts are present across Europe, parts of Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. The involvement or lack thereof of the American government is a contributing factor, though not in the expected way. Many ongoing conflicts and stalled diplomatic negotiations are attributed to the uncertainty surrounding America's presidential election. If Trump wins in 2024 and takes office in January 2025, the relatively short period remaining under Biden would limit his ability to make significant commitments, leading many international partners to effectively pause diplomatic relations with the US. Consequently, Trump has already undermined Biden's influence over global affairs. This situation could be seen as the first impact of Trump on international politics before he even assumes office. Should Trump win a second term, It is anticipated that his presidency would differ from the first due to the increasingly hostile global environment. Trump has proposed a universal tariff that would disrupt the current international trade system by imposing unilateral taxes on all US imports. Despite this, some leaders, such as Netanyahu, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and Narendra Modi, are looking forward to a more favorable reception and less criticism on issues of civil liberties under a potential Trump administration. Trump values personal relationships and one-on-one negotiations in his approach to politics. However, there are established safeguards that prevent abrupt and dramatic changes. For instance, during his first term, Trump and many of his senior allies in Congress initially supported traditional policy views. Yet, when Trump proposed drastic changes, these same allies often persuaded him to adhere to conventional approaches. This dynamic was evident in areas like Syria and Afghanistan. Therefore, regardless of who occupies the executive office, the civil service structure will continue to temper the most extreme impulses. If Trump assumes office, many of America's allies can only but anticipate a no-nonsense approach. Trump views them as freeloaders, an accurate perception, but one that comes with the territory of being a superpower. Overall, NATO's European members possess significant untapped potential, including a larger workforce, manpower pool, and a combined economy roughly 10 times the size of Russia's. Additionally, some leading European countries have advanced military technology and industries capable of producing top-notch weapons. NATO's European members also invest 3 times more in defense annually compared to Russia. In theory, Europe has ample resources to deter or even defeat Russia. Trump aims to leverage this vast potential, but differing views on security among European nations mean that NATO struggles to implement a cohesive and effective defense strategy. Truth be told, Russia has always been an imminent danger. For Spain or Italy, illegal migration is the main threat, while Russia is merely a distant problem. It takes a lot of diplomatic persuasion to get Spain to help Latvia, and so the Europeans tend to always fall back on America's Sleepy Joe. Trump views many European states as having trade imbalances with the US and inadequate defense spending, criticisms he frequently voiced during his first presidency and is expected to repeat. This scrutiny may become uncomfortable, particularly since many American allies spend less than 2% of their GDP on defense, something likely to draw Trump's ire, especially with the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. At a campaign rally, Trump suggested that, as president, he would allow Russia to do as it pleases with any NATO member that fails to meet defense spending requirements. While some countries have made improvements, Poland has ordered billions of dollars worth of tanks, jets, and missiles. Turkey is establishing factories in Texas to increase production of essential munitions, and Germany has created a €100 billion special fund to enhance its military capabilities. And for your sake, these are only exceptions rather than the norm. Most of Europe continues to lag in defense spending, treating it as a secondary concern. If Trump acts on his warning and America withdraws support from allies that contribute too little, it would damage the credibility of Article 5, which is central to collective defense. This could ultimately threaten NATO's very existence. Regardless, NATO members who have not contributed enough will feel the pressure, and in the worst-case scenario, Trump might attempt to pull the United States out of NATO, though this would likely encounter strong opposition from foreign and defense policy officials. Nevertheless, while many countries are anxiously awaiting the outcome, Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan are particularly concerned, as these are regions where the US has committed military resources and made political promises. In Ukraine, the situation is extremely dire. The Biden administration has been fully committed to Ukraine since the war began. However, recent ground fighting has stalled into trench warfare, and Ukraine is facing a significant shortage of ammunition. While the European Union has recently approved $50 billion in aid for Ukraine, the war effort largely depends on the United States. From a strictly numerical standpoint, US support for Ukraine is a great investment. America spends less than a tenth of its annual defense budget on Ukraine. Yet Russia's military economy and industries are significantly weakened without any loss of American lives. Additionally, much of the money spent on arming the Ukrainian forces stays within the US economy. However, Trump may not view it this way. He has repeatedly argued that military and financial aid to Ukraine drains American resources and often claims he could resolve the conflict in just 24 hours. While Trump has not outlined his exact policy, if he wins the election, the US might withdraw its support and pressure Ukraine into a peace deal with Russia. The best-case scenario for Ukraine under Trump would involve him agreeing to continue support, but with conditions, such as providing financial aid in the forms of loans and offering military assistance in exchange for exclusive rights for American companies to extract strategic minerals from Ukrainian soil. Ukraine is abundant in various minerals, and Trump would likely seek to maximize returns for the US in any possible way. It's worth noting that abandoning Ukraine is also a possibility Biden could consider in a second term. Since 2023, fortune has shifted against Ukraine. Russia has adapted to the evolving nature of the conflict, and the US Defense Department doubts that Ukraine can ever win the war. However, as a seasoned politician, Biden cannot acknowledge this before the elections, as it would undermine his Ukraine policy thus far. If Biden wins, he might take the same approach as Trump, negotiating an end to the conflict and pressuring Ukraine to reach a realistic settlement. The outcome would likely be a deal more favorable to Russian interests than Ukrainian ones. In essence, Trump and Biden share a similar outlook on Ukraine. The difference lies in the details. As we head towards the Middle East, American policy has been nothing but a train wreck. During his first term, Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal that had limited Iran's nuclear program. He also moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and closed the U.S. Consulate for Palestinian Affairs in Washington. Trump's peace plan for Israel and Palestine rejected the two-state solution, leading instead to the signing of the Abraham Accords, which established diplomatic relations between Israel and several Arab states. However, the Abraham Accords did little to address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Biden inherited this situation, but he delayed rejoining the nuclear deal with Iran. Since the 2021 election, Iran has been governed by hardliners, making return to the nuclear deal even more unlikely, and Iran is now closer to developing a nuclear weapon than ever before. Furthermore, Biden has treated the Palestinians as poorly as Trump did. The reopening of the U.S. consulate was delayed, diplomatic peace efforts were neglected, and the rise of the most far-right government in Israel's history was largely ignored. Biden's policies have not significantly differed from Trump's. Although Biden promised to revive Israeli-Palestinian peace talks, the outcome is likely to be no different from previous U.S. efforts. Trump, on the other hand, has little interest in the Palestinian-Israeli issue itself, but understands the dynamics of power, politics, and lobbying within the U.S., and will act accordingly. Anyway, whether under Biden or Trump, Israel can expect continued support from America. The only real difference lies in the rhetoric, with Netanyahu having had a better rapport with Trump, which suggests that a populist tone might dominate the headlines if Trump returns to office. Throughout the region, Iran's proxy conflicts, involving groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and other assets in Syria and Iraq, are likely to persist or even escalate in scope and intensity. During his first term, Trump applied maximum pressure sanctions on Iran and ordered the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, a key commander who played a significant role in Iran's proxy warfare. Trump's track record indicates a greater willingness to escalate tensions with Iran. Unlike Biden, Trump might respond with lethal force against Iran if they target U.S. personnel. Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia, an Israeli-Saudi deal would have better chances of success with Trump in office. Biden has relied on the Abraham Accords, and Trump is likely to continue that approach. Trump's favorable view of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman further improves the prospects for such a deal. To secure it, Trump might offer security guarantees to the Saudis, along with a substantial arms package in exchange for Saudi Arabia's normalization with Israel. However, In a broader scope, Trump would likely withdraw from active involvement in the Middle East. His administration would have little interest in providing American security for the region or for the world. This would mean no more US Navy intervention when international shipping is threatened. Still more on the other side of the globe, Taiwan also has reservations about Trump's return. During his first term, Trump made it clear that he has little tolerance for freeloaders, and Taiwan is one such example. Between January and November 2023, Taiwan ran a trade surplus with the US amounting to $45 billion, a substantial figure for a country of its size. Even more concerning, Taiwan is not spending nearly enough on its defense, despite raising its military budget to 2.5% of GDP. Given the existential threat it faces from China, this is a modest amount. Trump might question whether Americans should risk their lives for Taiwan or if the US should continue to bankroll its defense. Trump's indifference to Taiwan presents a valuable opportunity for China to exploit, increasing the likelihood of an all-out war. Last year, Taiwan's foreign minister warned that conflict with China could occur as early as 2027, a sentiment echoed by US officials years ago. On the economic front, no significant changes are reflected. During his first term, Trump broke with traditional economic policy by launching a trade war with China, which Biden later refined and intensified. If Trump returns to the White House, he would likely pick up where he left off. The truth of the matter is that both Biden and Trump view China as America's main rival in the race for global supremacy. However, Trump might escalate competition with China by focusing on reducing the bilateral trade deficit and securing critical supply chains to lessen US reliance on China. Additionally, Trump is likely to adopt a tougher stance, with rhetoric that could criticize some of America's Asian allies for their insufficient defense spending. With Trump in office, allies such as Japan, the Philippines, and South Korea would have to bear with a more transactional United States. Even though Biden and Trump are more than alike, and from this case, these individuals actually need their Asian allies to counter China. Today, the world has become sort of cruel and hostile than during his first tenure as the President of the United States. American power and resources must be used selectively. Trying to defend everything means defending nothing effectively. Certain conflicts in Africa and Asia might not be worth the effort. Nevertheless, Trump cannot entirely ignore global issues. Chaos often creates opportunities, and for those who are willing to exploit, then should go ahead. Meanwhile, international trade is being rerouted across the globe. The flow of oil is being rewired, and alternatives are emerging against the US dollar. The UN is in decline and has become obsolete as a platform for conflict prevention, while a Trump presidency will see the continued decline of international law. In the near future, everything from trade and climate to human rights will worsen. But do you think Trump's presidency has the possibility to do so? Please leave your suggestions in the comment section below. Thanks for your time, guys. If you enjoyed watching this video, please show us a thumb up. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our future updates on world economics.